All right, so good evening. You're all very welcome to today's training. We are glad to have you. We had well over 100 people registering, and we we know perfectly well that more people will join in, but for the early birds, we will take off. We can't wait for everybody, so we'll take off. So if you give me a moment, I will share my screen and then great. So please, if you could mute yourself to help us, that would be great. All right. So, someone is talking. Let me see who it is. Alisa, can you kindly ask the person to mute themselves or mention or call the person out so that we know? All right. So, who am I? My name is Dr. Joshua Mogri. I've been in farming for the last 18 years. I started with poultry. I've been farming poultry since I nearly aged myself by mentioning my name, my age. But yes, so I've been in poultry farming, I've been in pig farming, done guinea fowls, aquaculture, which is started with tilapia and then moved into catfish. I've seen the highs and lows of farming. I've won grants, entrepreneurial grants to expand the farm. I've also won national awards for farming, but I've also seen the low side of agriculture, where I've also had over 2,000 birds die in 3 days with my hard-earned money. I've seen African swine fever sweep through my pig farm and having to drag pregnant sows, which are well over 100 kg, and bury them. So I know I've seen the good and I've seen the bad of farming. My academic qualifications, well, my BSc was in agricultural technology, my MPhil was in animal breeding and genetics, and my PhD is in animal welfare and breeding. And I also work with the Animal Research Institute. So, yes, that's bivocational in so many different ways. So I feel that places me in gives me a unique perspective of having practically done it and also having a good grasp of what the text says and what research is saying. And I'm hoping that we can have some kind of synergy here today. All right. So we've been running these trainings since 2017. Pre-COVID, we used to do them in person. And I think we all learned how to use online meetings during COVID. And we found out that our reach could be further than the city of Tamale, where we live. So post-COVID, all our trainings have been online. And we have over 300 alumni from the various trainings that we have run, majority of the trainings being in agriculture. All right. So why do we need this training? I'll give you 4 simple reasons. The first reason is that we have a very young population. If you are above the age of 25 in Ghana, and Ghana is even a little higher than most African countries, then you are in the older population of the country. So we are looking at the average age of the Ghanaian being somewhere around 20 years old, and the average age or the median age of the African is 19.5. So that means we live on a continent that is poised to be the fastest billion, and we are looking at a population that is about to explode. So agriculture is key. Producing animals and producing livestock is key because there will always be market for it. Then that segues into the fact that we have demand for meat. There's a lot of demand for meat. If you look at the statistics of our importation and what the FAO is saying, Ghana can, and I'm speaking for Ghana, but as it stands now, we are unable to meet our needs for meat locally. So we end up importing so much, from chicken to beef to all the things. So there is a demand. Then also, and we noticed that from the introduction, I've noticed that a lot of professionals, I had this argument or this conversation with one of my colleagues once where I said, a lot of the time when we are writing proposals for research, we keep talking about the rural farmer. But there's this big chunk of Ghanaians who are working a 9 to 5 job, but have a dream of establishing a farm. So we have a lot of urban farmers now. We have a lot of people who are working and trying to farm in different locations. And there's a gap for training for these kinds of people who also deserve to know, to have the information in these areas. Mind you, we'll provide a manual, a training manual after this that will have the detailed notes of all that we are doing and much more than will appear on the slides. So please just enjoy yourself and interact. So there's a good interest in agriculture. And then also, because of the challenges faced by farmers, you see, many individuals in Ghana and other African countries are attracted to the business opportunity of farming. But the challenge is that when they get into it, they find out that the thought of farming is easier than the actual farming. 50% of people who go into animal farming quit within the first 3 years. There's one, he's joined this call, or he's joined this meeting, and I remember he was talking to me and he said he started with goats and all of them died, but he wants to start again. But he's a nurse and he's into it. So there are a lot of challenges that farmers face, and we run some of these trainings to provide information and direction on where to go when you have some of these problems. All right. So who is this training for? I think from my introduction that I've talked about it. The training is for everybody who is here, the full-time farmer, the person who wants a side hustle of farming, also those who are in one career and want to pivot into another. Also for those who just want to have a hobby. Maybe your reason for being here is not necessarily that you want to have a major farm, but you have some space around the house. Maybe you want to raise rabbits, maybe you want to raise chickens or goats, and it's just something you've always wanted to do. Those planning for retirement, and then the curious minds. There are also people who are here who just want to know. I was telling someone that I join almost every kind of training I see that's advertised that I can join. I've joined trainings on urban planning. I've joined interesting training. So there are some people who are just curious and just want to learn something new for themselves and their mental health. So you are all welcome. How to benefit from this? Please engage actively, maintain an open mind. Don't come in with a fixed mind. Avoid becoming emotionally attached to any individual animals, especially when we are running through the criteria for the big six. Please don't come in, it must be this or no other animals. And then we'll also give an opportunity for us to network in the chats and connect with one another. All right. So when we talk about the big six, we've coined it the big six simply because in Ghana we have the big six who were fought for our freedom, and big six is quite popular. But when you look at the top 6 animals that are raised in Ghana and that we consume the most, you have them on the screen. And then I said +1 because of fish farming. We also run trainings in fish farming, which seems to be one of our most popular, even ahead of poultry. But yeah, so we call it big 6 +1. What are the big 6? In order of demand in Ghana, we are looking at chickens, we are looking at cattle, we are looking at goats, pigs, sheep, guinea fowls, and then fish farming. That's tilapia and catfish. Tilapia used to be very big in Ghana, but now Ghanaians are quickly adapting to catfish like our Nigerian brothers. Now, there's been some exclusion criteria. I heard someone say, my rabbit farm. We've excluded things like rabbits, geese, ducks, quails, turkey, grass cutter, not because farmers are not growing them in Ghana or because it's necessarily a bad idea, but when it comes to these particular meats, you have to have a niche market in order to market them or in order to sell. I use this example or this practical way of knowing which meats are on demand. Any meat you go into a local market and cannot easily find to buy, most often is not on high demand. And these you see in the picture, which are excluded, don't shoot me yet. I'm not saying they are not good animals to raise, but you have to do a little bit more work in choosing your market when it comes to these ones. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the big six, and then we are going to look at a criteria for evaluating them. So I'm going to give you the criteria right now. We are going to, for each animal, I'm going to talk about the market demand and consumer acceptability, the land and space requirement, because I'm assuming market demand and consumer acceptability. We are looking at market demand and consumer acceptability, land and space requirements, the financial feasibility and your return on investment when you start it, the amount of technical knowledge and skills required to be able to carry out such a venture, health management and disease risk, feed availability, feed cost, and then scalability. Some businesses are okay to run as a farm venture, but scaling is a little bit more difficult than other ventures. So we are going to use this criteria to look at all the big six animals plus one, and then we'll do some more work. All right.